Hello, and welcome to the Capital Region Anti-Racism Training Initiative's Community Conversation, a production of the initiative and the Junior League of Schenectady and Proctors. I am Denise Murphy McGraw. I am the co-host of this show. I am also one of the founders of the initiative, as well as the president of the Junior League of Schenectady and Saratoga counties. I'm joined today, as I am every week, by my co-host, my friend, my mentor, Dr. Hayward Horton. Hi, Doc. How are you today?
Oh, great, Denise. How are you doing this morning?
Good. We have two guests, a little different, shaking it up. We always say, oh, this is a good one, but this is a good one. We have two people who have really been phenomenally committed to DEI, to rights, to lifting up all voices in our community. And they're going to talk to us a little bit about an event that they're having that I was made aware of, and I begged them to come on the show to be able to let more people know about it. So I'm thrilled that we are joined today, Doc, by Bob Blackmon and Jessica Ashley of the Rensselaer County Justice Center. Did I get that right?
That's correct.
a lot of names, a lot of things I had to rattle off in the beginning of all of this. As I said, they are two civil rights leaders in our community, known nationally for their work and their efforts. And I am just thrilled to be able to have them here today. So I'm interested in hearing your conversation with them, Doc. So I'll try not to pipe in too much.
Well, you pipe in whenever you get ready, because I'm telling you, I'm excited as well. First, Ms. Ashley, Dr. Blackmon, just want to thank you both for agreeing to be on our show. We're so delighted. And I want to also, on the front end, I want to also thank you for the work you've done in civil rights. I can think of no better work to do in the community than civil rights. We look at the news and we have a young man being shot because he came to the wrong door and in the wrong neighborhood. We had another young woman who was actually killed at the same time. Civil rights, irrespective of the race and or ethnicity or gender of the individual involved, is just a necessary battle that we must continue to fight. So I just want to thank you both for doing this good work. I can think of no greater work to do in the community. So thank you very much. And having said all that, I just want to, what we try to do is to allow our viewers, here you go, the professor in me, right? Our viewers to get a sense of who our guests are. So we want to ask you to take us back on a journey. Help us understand how you two became the great civil rights leaders that you are today. We want to know how you got to be who you are today. Let's start off with Ms. Ashley.
Well, thank you, Doctor. I'm not so sure I'm deserving of the type of recognition that you're giving me at this point, but nevertheless.
We decide the recognition, Jessica. You earned it.
Thank you. But let me just take you back in my life journey. As a teenager, witnessing how, actually before my teen years, I witnessed a great deal of abuse by the police on people of color. But the most profound effect came about when I witnessed it being done to my brothers, being beat on the head with billy clubs. And I remember riots that broke out in the Central Park in Schenectady back in the 60s, actually late 60s. And I'll never forget that first time in my life, after witnessing from childhood, the police always beating and having the upper hand. For the first time, I witnessed that the crowd in Central Park got the upper hand and the police were getting beat up. And I'm not ashamed to say it, but I was so glad to see that. And I was a child because for once the underdog was not being viewed. So that left an imprint on my mind. As time went on, I reached my teen years. I wanted to be a Black Panther. My father was very angry with me. And it was as if we were in two worlds. I couldn't understand, why can't you see how racism is so prevalent and how Black people are being abused? And my father's comment, I'll never forget, because it was very common for many of our elders to say or believe that the police aren't going to arrest you for nothing. You had to do something for the police to arrest you. For the life of me, that would take me to a crazy place. Anyway, as time went on, I developed into my own person. In the city of Troy, I came back to the city of Troy after a number of years of living in other areas of the country. I came back to the city of Troy, and it was here that things started to unfold in my own more, I'll say more of a, not passive, but less aggressive. Because at one point I was I was, as I said, I wanted to be a Black Panther. I wanted to have a gun, and I wanted to shoot every cop there was. That was my attitude as a teenager. But by the grace of God, I matured and began to see things, how we might go about changing things. And the most important tool that God had given us was our mind. You have got to outthink your adversary. You have got to use your brain. And one of the primary ways this was often experienced for me is as a family worker with Head Start for a number of years. One of my responsibilities was to advocate with my parents when they had to deal with social services, police, or whatever the case might be. And oftentimes the parents would be denied their benefits that they were entitled to because someone decided that they were just going to be difficult. Well, that was my time to move in. And I would oftentimes recite to them when they would say the person was not entitled to whatever it might be. I would like to know, we'd like to know what policy you're going about. What are you using? What formula are you using to make the determination? And when they would not be able to show that, well, they would, make a long story short, that parent would leave with their benefits. And I would often have to tell them, I need you to keep your mouth shut. You let me handle this. Because when you allow yourself to become frustrated and angered, which is the tool that they're using, that's what they want. They want you to be frustrated and angry so that you can start cussing and losing your cool. Put you out, you gain nothing. Let me handle them. And I would have my smile on my face and policy right in hand, knowing exactly what the rules were. And so that was my journey. I was president of Troy NAACP for, I believe it was 3 years. I was active. I was a member of the Objective Review Board, the original, when we started in Rensselaer County for 5 years. I was one of the first members on that board. And I've just continued through, just through happenstance, if you will. Things would occur, that I would get a call, someone's beat up and they're in the hospital, and away it would go. So I have not, over the years, I joined the past few years, I joined with the Rensselaer County Justice Center because I knew that one of the things that needed to happen in the Rensselaer County was that we had to have people who were, first of all, dedicated to the cause, but also not easily manipulated in the situations that before you get the whole story. Right. Oftentimes people don't have the whole story and you have this big chaotic situation. There are two sides to every story. And I believe that the authorities have just as much a right to give their side as an alleged victim.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And that's our position. We want to hear both sides. Now, if the police department doesn't have a side or refuse to give a side, that tells us everything we need to know. And that's basically my story.
Fantastic.
Very powerful. Thank you.
Professor Blackmon, you're on, sir.
Well, thank you so much. And thanks to both of you for the very generous introductions that you gave. Not sure I'm deserving of all that, but it's hard to know where to start in all of this. I've been retired now for 18 years, so we're not going to talk about my age, but I started dabbling in this kind of thing a long time ago. In fact, when I was a graduate student at Louisiana State University in 1965, our best television reception back in those days was from a station in Jackson, Mississippi. And I saw the governor, Ross Barnett, standing in the schoolhouse door, trying to stop schools from being desegregated and making a fool of himself, really.
Right.
And I said to my wife at the time, when I finish this PhD, I'll go any place in the world, but I'm not going to Mississippi. And I grew up in the South. But as fate would have it, I had to eat those words. I was offered for me a perfect job in the middle of the Mississippi Delta, in a small town near Greenville, Mississippi. And so I arrived there in 1967, and the big issue was school desegregation. Brown versus the Board of Education, of course, had been issued in 1954, I guess, and nothing had been done there, and most other similar communities. Nothing had been done to desegregate the schools. And finally, a group of us sort of got together and said, you know, we've got to make this happen. We've got to make it happen successfully. And I began to work with others. We formed a biracial committee, equal number of whites and blacks, to sit down and talk about this thing. And we had public meetings, and some of the biggest opposition came from the school superintendent himself. But anyway, we finally were successful in doing that. And that's how I got into this kind of volunteer work. That's the successful side of the story. But the other side of the story is that in that particular school district, and in many others in the South, today, those schools that were desegregated during the civil rights movement are now, many of them are now all black again because of white flight. Right. So it kind of makes you wonder, did we do a good thing or not? We thought we were at the time, but those schools, as I said, tend to be resegregated. And then I left there after 12 years and got into academic work as a department head and later as a dean, and didn't do a lot for a good many years because I was pretty busy with my work, and for reasons that it would take more time than we have here to tell, my wife and I retired to a place called Troy, New York, and I had been in Syracuse for a few years. It was SUNY in Syracuse, so we settled here 18 years ago. And as I began to get to know people, including Jessica Ashley, I became aware that while this was a nice community, there were things that were not right about race relations and that sort of thing. And a man by the name of Bob Doherty, and we'll probably talk about it a little more later. Yeah. He and I began to have breakfast every Friday morning, and we did that for a number of years. And we we would just talk about a lot of things, and particularly about relationships between the community and the police here in Troy. And some things happened. There was like the Kokopelli case that actually I met Jessica for the very first time when she testified before Bob Doherty's Public Safety Committee when he had a hearing about the Kokopelli case. And then a couple of years later, there was the police killing of an unarmed black man. And Bob and I were very concerned about that, of course, as Jessica and a lot of other people. But we didn't hear a lot of people in the community talking about it. It was like, okay, it happened, but so what? And so we began to wonder if there might be some sort of an organization that we could form to speak out about some of these issues. And that's sort of how the Justice Center of Rensselaer County was born. And shortly after that, other people joined those conversations, and it sort of took on a spurt of growth, and we now have 10 or 11 board members. And so that's kind of how we got started in all this.
It's a terrific board. I mean, it's a who's who of people in the community. When I was speaking with your colleague, Dakota Jones, who so many people know and respect and appreciate, and I being one of them, she asked, would you like to talk to some of our board members? And she's rattling off just all these names of people I've worked on other projects with, people I know that are just there for a name on a letterhead. They're really shoulders to the wheel kind of workers like the two of you are. So it's a magnificent organization. And would you just take a minute to just give our viewers, a little bit of an overview of, you talked to your individual work and how you got to this place of this board, but the charge of the board and just a little bit about it for folks who are not familiar with it.
Mm-hmm. Well, as I said, we have 10 board members, and Bob Doherty was our first president. Yeah. And unfortunately, Bob died about a year and a half ago, and I was vice president. That's how I became president of the group. But we're working on, I guess our principal project has been police reform, but we've also done some things in environmental justice. We joined forces with the Environmental Coalition of Rensselaer County, I believe it is, to oppose the renewal of the permit for the Dunn landfill, which is a school in Rensselaer. We've done some work in voting. I'm sure you may remember that
we've had a whole show. Noreen, Peter, and Cindy have been on the show to talk about the voting rights violations, the voting rights, third world country-esque voting rights issues in Troy. Yep.
That sounds like Noreen. Yeah.
She's trained me well, Bob and Jessica.
She's been a spark plug. She's basically the reason we got into the voting issue, particularly with regard to early voting sites. Our Board of Elections first gave us such conveniently located voting sites as out in Brunswick, and I believe it was Jessica who tried to take a bus ride to Brunswick, and it took like 3 hours to get out there. So
I'm sorry, it was Noreen who literally took the bus and walked the distance.
Oh, it was Noreen. Okay.
Yeah, I took the bus to Scotia, which was absolutely ridiculous. And we had to, 4 buses.
Yeah.
4 buses to get to Scotia if you don't have transportation.
We're just a group of citizens who come from various backgrounds and so forth who are interested in making Troy and Rensselaer County a better and more equitable place.
Yes.
Grateful for that work. Truly, it's needed, right? And Troy isn't unique. I mean, the examples we've given are embarrassing for our community, but Troy isn't unique. And if each of our communities throughout the state don't have folks like you stepping up, being willing to work, together to address these issues, then we're going to go back to the dark age, and we just can't. There's too many issues and too many problems that are out there. One of the things that where I'm so excited about, as I said at the top of the show, is the program that you'll be offering tomorrow, which I believe really is something that everyone should go see. I'm looking forward to seeing both of you in person at this event, because I do think it's so important, and it's free. And I just think it's exciting, and to bring that level of a speaker and to talk about a topic that I think the topic alone, the title of it alone, America's Third Reconstruction. I love it. So Jessica, do you want to tell us a little bit about the program tomorrow night?
Well, yes, again, it's starting at 7. Dr. Johnson is coming from Austin, Texas, as I'm sure you're aware. And it's at the Troy Music Hall. Any and everyone is invited to come out. The third Reconstruction, one of the things that and one of the importance of having this kind of speaker come to the community is that it's a dangerous thing for us to become complacent. Just because things aren't happening to you or your uncle directly doesn't mean it isn't happening and that there's no threat or risk of it happening.
Right.
Like the young man knocking on that door, and the shooter not being arrested. He was 84 years old, and my understanding is that he shot him twice. Once he went down from the first shot, he was shot a second time.
Mm-hmm.
What's to prevent? Now that's even the mayor said he believed it was racism. And the thing about racism is it's a cancer, and it doesn't just contain itself to a specific area; it spreads. And so again, by bringing in Dr. Johnson, who will address the present day, past and present day issues, helping us and people to understand, get a clearer view, a clearer understanding of what actually is happening. Because I don't believe everyone does understand what's happening once Trump's presidency was allowed to go forward. Something happened. Something terrible happened, and the people are they're going crazy, and racism has never gone away. But when people are comfortable with expressing it openly and publicly, and having no concern for there being consequences, such as when you hate crimes, right. When people are not concerned about that, then yeah, we got problems. So again, he will be here at 7 p.m. The speaker will begin at 7 p.m. on tomorrow. And we're just looking forward to any and everyone who would desire to come. Just all are welcome. And come and be filled with the kind of information that I believe we all need to survive.
Bob, you're an academic. Dr. Horton is an academic. I'm just a layperson, but I have not read Dr. Joseph's book yet, but I am looking forward to it, and I am looking forward to listening to him talk, because I just love all of the language that he's using around all of this. Building the 21st century beloved community. That's what we all strive for, right? Is to live in communities that are stronger and better. I've talked in past, and we've had many shows on Dr. Horton's work in community development, but that's what all of this is about. developing our communities, building them up, lifting up voices, and lifting up the voices for good and for the common good. Not, Jessica said something so perfect. People feel comfortable in their racism now. And all you need to do is drive down the street, the bumper stickers, the flags, and it's hate. And it's hate on every level, whether it's hate toward another race or it's hate toward Joe Biden. It's hate. And, we'd be a lot better suited and a lot better people if we were talking about the other side of that coin, which is the love. And so I'm very interested to hear what Dr. Joseph has to say tomorrow. And I obviously, as somebody who knew Bob Doherty for years, I love that this is the inaugural Bob Doherty lecture series program and everything that you're doing to honor Bob's memory and his rich legacy that he's leaving in the community. But Dr. Blackmon, you've worked in and around these topics for years. What are you looking forward to hearing tomorrow night? And, what should people expect?
Well, number one, I think we can expect an outstanding speaker. He's a very articulate person, and this is his 7th book, so he's quite the scholar in matters of race. And when I called him several months ago now to initially invite him to do this, he said, "Well, what would you like me to talk about?" And I had not read the book at the time either, but I said, "Well, Martin Luther King talked about reaching the mountaintop, and you've written about achieving the beloved community. But things that we sometimes wonder, how much progress are we really making? I know we've made some, but we have a lot of work to do. So perhaps you could," talking to him, I said, "perhaps you can tell us sort of where we are on that path. Are we halfway there, or are we near the mountaintop?" And
right.
So that's kind of what I hope he will do, is to sort of give us a state of, in his opinion, in his expert opinion, I hope he will give us sort of a state of civil rights and state of equality. Because as we see the flags and the bumper stickers, and we know about shootings continued and all that, it really makes you wonder. We've been, and his book ends on a hopeful note, and that's wonderful. And I hope he's right. But my question is, how much longer do we have to live in hope? And so I'm hoping he can explain all that for us. Yeah.
Well, as Dr. Horton does each week with us, he really encourages us to remain hopeful, right? But take action, and that's why we do this, to have people on who are taking that action each week. Dr. Horton, I'm sure you have a lot to say. I'm sorry. I'm excited about this topic.
No,
we're in trouble when I get excited.
You're doing an excellent job, Denise. And I look forward to tomorrow's program as well. In fact, I'm quite excited to hear what Dr. Joseph has to say, as well as to meet him personally. We sound like kindred souls. So I have not had an opportunity to read his book. I will get a copy and make sure that I do read it, and perhaps even add it to some of the base material for future lectures. But most importantly, the community needs to hear him.
Right.
And we all need to grow. Not saying that necessarily we will find something new, but every once in a while, those of us who are out there in the trenches, we need a pause. We need a reinforcement. We need that inspiration so that we can continue to fight this fight. It is not an easy thing. You sacrifice so much of your own personal life and time, and to hear a speaker like the one you're bringing in gives us the inspiration and reinforces our determination to continue to fight.
Right.
Well, the program which will take place on Wednesday. I know folks will watch this show at all different days and times, but will take place at 7 p.m. on Wednesday, April 19th. It will be at Troy Savings Bank Music Hall, which you cannot find a more stunning location. If you have never been there, if you live in other parts of the state and you've never been to Troy Music Hall, do yourself a favor and get there because it's just absolutely beautiful. We are going to be listening to a conversation with Dr. Joseph, who is the author and historian of racial justice movements, which, just what could be more important. The topic for the inaugural Robert J. Doherty Memorial Lecture Series is America's Third Reconstruction, Building the 21st Century Beloved Community. I hope folks will join us there. I think we're in for a real treat. And it sounds like we're going to get a roadmap to get to that beloved community. Jessica Ashley, Dr. Bob Blackmon, thank you both very much for being on our show. Dr. Horton, it was good to see you.
Thank you. Likewise.
To all our viewers. Join us next Tuesday night at 7 p.m. and every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. for the next edition of Community Conversations. Thank you very much and good night.
Good night.